Yeah, we're here at Quality Bumper Company, and we're going to be doing a leveling kit on an '08 Toyota Tundra today. Leveling kits are used for looks-wise and to be able to give you a little more stable of a ride. What you also want to do before you end up doing a leveling kit is make sure that everything is in good working condition on the vehicle before you put in on any aftermarket parts. I'm going to be having Steve today show us how you would install a leveling kit from beginning to end.
The first thing you're going to do when you do a leveling kit is you got to measure the ride height of the vehicle. You can either measure from the ground up to the space in between the tire and the fender, or you can take it from the bottom of the wheel and up to the fender. And you want to do this to all four sides. So this one right here is at about 36 and a half.
All right, Steve's going to go ahead and remove this skid plate now with the 12 millimeter. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, but you're going to need a 10 millimeter to take the lower fascia off of the skid plate. They don't tell you that in the instructions, but you're going to need it.
Okay.
And then the bolts are up in these holes.
And remember, always wear safety glasses when you're underneath the vehicle because there's a lot of undercoating, and if it gets into your eyes, it can really do some damage. So always make sure you wear safety goggles. So what's the next step here?
The next step is to take off. We got the tire off. That took a minute. First thing you want to do down here is loosen up the bolts for the lower control arm. These bolts back here. Make sure not to turn the cams, or you'll mess up the alignment. The next thing would be to loosen up the sway bar and the end link there. You're gonna have to take that out. Then the lower strut bolt. You're gonna have to take that out of the control arm. That's not the easiest bolt to get out sometimes. And then from there, you come up here to the upper control arm. If you just loosen the nut and tap the spindle with a hammer, that should just pop free. And then you're going to want to loosen up the bolts up here on the strut, but don't take them all the way off, because once you drop the control arm, it'll just fall right out, and you don't want to damage it. Alright, we're ready to take the strut out. This is where you need the pry bars. Leave a couple of nuts up here on the top strut mount, just so when you pry out the bottom, it doesn't fall right out. You want to stick one in at the bottom, and then move one behind there, and then just pry it right out. And then the nuts will hold it, and you'll just be able to hold it by hand and take the nuts off. Okay, now since we got the strut out, we're ready to put the spacer on. It just slips right on the factory bolts. To get the nuts on, you're going to have to hold it up a little bit. Just put it down in there. This is where you're going to want to use the Loctite. This is what we use here, the blue Loctite. This is fine. You want to make sure you're ready to put this thing back in here before you put the Loctite on, or it'll dry, and it's not going to be very easy to get them nuts to tighten up.
Okay.
When you put the strut back in, make sure the paint mark goes to the outside.
Okay. That's good to know. Is that on all the, do they do that to all of them?
Yeah, there'll be some kind of mark.
Some type of marking?
So you know
okay.
which way it faces.
All right.
And it'll be just like that.
There you go. So it's just set up ready to go. Okay. All right.
As you can see, we got the strut in there. When you're putting this in here and when you're putting everything back together, make sure you don't rip the ball joint boots. Mostly the top. That one's real easy to rip because you have to pry this down a little bit to get it back into the spindle. The tie rod, that one's not too bad, but just make sure not to rip that one.
Okay.
And then, once you get the strut in there, don't forget the Loctite up on the studs, and then just put everything back together.
All right, let's go ahead.
We'll need to get an alignment
Afterwards?
After you're done with this. It'll be drivable, but I wouldn't drive it too long. It'll chew up your tires.
Okay.
And then the spacer nuts up here, they should be torqued to 60 foot-pounds.
Okay.
It's going to be a little hard to get the torque wrench in the back, but with a short socket it'll fit.
Okay. And there we are, the finished product. Much more evened out. That's why they call it a leveling kit.